Hello, welcome to the Comic Book Club. I am your host, Jamil Payne, and with me, as always, is our very own dancing queen, Amanda Comey. Amanda, how are you doing today?
Cowabunga?
Cowabunga. Today we are talking the reboot, the 2011 reboot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think I just messed up that word a bit. But yes, that's what we're talking about today. We're reading the first 12 issues, I believe. But before we get to that, Amanda, I guess, we always do like a news section, and like sometimes we struggle to come up with like news because sometimes comic books and comic book related stuff can be a bit slow unless you just want to talk about movies all the time. So, but something legitimately big happened in the world of comics, and,
Yes.
and that is longtime publisher of what 20 years basically, Dan Didio has left DC Comics. Now, Amanda, I know you don't read a lot of mainstream comics, but this is a really big deal.
Yeah, it is.
So, like, I don't know from what you know, how do you feel about this? If you feel anything.
Um, so I'm kind of coming at it more from a business point of view where I'm wondering like how long did he know? Is there a succession plan? Does that what was did he know he was planning to step down and retire when they got rid of Vertigo, for example?
Right.
Um, so I guess it's just kind of I have some strategic questions like overall. But I mean, I think he did like a ton of work and I think he deserves to take a break. And I'm excited to see like what happens next without him there. But
Okay, so this is like this is the biggest schism. Well, not the biggest, but this is one of those big schisms between like people who know him and just fans.
mhm.
Cause a lot of fans seems to hate Dan Didio, which I find very odd. But then, but then, you
I
see,
don't think it's possible to like the guy who's running DC Comics. Just I think that like we as comic book readers kind of need to imagine that DC Comics is run by Lex Luthor and we kind of need to feel it's like fans against the man. I feel like that's part of reading DC Comics. It's
but
yeah.
but here's the thing, right? I've had this conversation a lot, right? And I know this is a fan podcast, and this is gonna sound really fans don't know what the fuck they talking about ever almost. And I know that's a weird thing to say since they the one that buy the comics. But like, people hated Joe Quesada too. And Joe Quesada saved Marvel damn near single handedly, like creative and financially. But if
hmm
you but you ask like the average fan what they think of Joe Quesada, they hate
hmm
him. And it's weird, right? So like same thing with Jim Shooter back in the like 80s. Like, like people talk shit about Jim Shooter, but Jim Shooter led Marvel into like a creative renaissance, right? But like what I realize is if you at a job long enough, Amanda,
Yeah.
not everything is gonna be up. Like not like you're gonna have some down years. And he's basically been creatively in control of DC for 20 years in one capacity of another. And like, yeah, all of it ain't been great, but a lot of it have. If you look at where he started at, like something like Identity Crisis or like, Hush, he put DC in a good place. Yeah, New 52 didn't go well, but like, but it's weird seeing like people being happy that he's gone. But then you look at all these great creators on the other side that love him, right? Tom King, who on this show we love Tom King, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, Tom King has nothing but good things to say. Gail Simone said we butted heads, but I love him, and it's just so forth and so on. He's championed so many writers and artists to put out very good work, and like it really saddens me to see like fans just dumping on him, and I'm just like, nobody stayed at a job for 20 years if they were bad at it.
Yeah.
Like, you can name the bad stuff that he did. That's easy, right? Because when you fail, you fail. But what Dan Didio did to, you see, you got me talking too much. I ain't want to do this. But what Dan Didio did, and me and you've talked about this with DC, is DC, unlike Marvel, isn't afraid to take these big ass swings. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's all interesting, right? Like it's never really safe. It's daring. Where as daring as comic books can be, and like that's all under him. And I think it's gonna be missing that. I think DC is trying to go for a more Marvel like structure and like a Marvel like thing. You know what I'm saying, to compete. And
Maybe, yeah.
I'm just kind of scared to see like because like Warner Brothers, from my understanding, Warner Brothers is trying to exert more and more control over the publishing side of DC. Kind of like how Disney has like exerted like a lot of influence over the publishing side of Marvel, and I just wonder what DC is going to look like in 5 years.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was getting at. Was I was like, hey, like I think he's accomplished a lot. He deserves a break, and also like I'm good and bad excited to see what happens with someone else in charge.
Right.
Because on the one hand, like, if they brought in a woman, that would change a lot of things.
That would.
Or if they brought in somebody who was just a yes man and did whatever, his bosses said, that might not be good. Or I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see. I'm very good and bad interested to see what happens with DC.
Yeah. So, pour one out for Dan D. And like, it seemed like he left kind of sudden. So I wonder how much, like you said, I wonder how much of this is just like him being forced out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why I was kind of going like, hey, was there a succession plan here? Because I'm kind of like, you got rid of Vertigo and got rid of Karen Berger, and now she's just gotten set up somewhere else, and there's like a job you could have given her. Like if DC had been looking down the line, I feel like she would have gotten his job.
You think so? I mean, look, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just I don't know if I have that type of faith in DC.
Well, so that's what I'm. I mean, big enough companies are supposed to sort of have an informal idea of what happens when someone steps down or leaves.
Right.
And I'm like, I feel like if they had been able to tell her like, hey, we're getting rid of Vertigo, but you're going to be the boss of everything in 2 years, she wouldn't have left.
Right.
So I think some of the other actions DC has taken points to this being sort of like, just sort of one thing too many happened, and he was like, I don't need this, I'm leaving. He had an epiphany and was just done with it.
Yeah. And like, and some people like feel like, apparently they were setting up for another crisis, and someone was like, well, maybe there was just one crisis too many for DC. And that could be like the case. But I just want to remind people, from my knowledge, unlike Marvel, they only reset like twice.
Yeah.
You like numbering it anyway. You know what I'm saying? Marvel at one point was like renumbering every 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. That's why some collections are weird. Like, but yeah, so go ahead.
I mean, I was going to say there's a tiny bit of news coming out of Marvel right now, and just to show the range of what's going on.
Okay.
I'm seeing people are very excited that Marvel's big crossover event this summer is just going to be something stupid and fun where the X-Men all get swords. I'm just seeing so many people who are like, this idea is so dumb. I'm so relieved that this isn't being advertised as like, something that's going to change the genre of comics forever. It's just, what if Wolverine also had a katana again? And I mean, I don't know if they're literally going to get swords. I'm assuming that it's sort of like a tarot reference.
Mm.
But I'm seeing the promotional image for X of Swords or Ten of Swords going around online, and people are just like stupid happy that it's not going to be like a high stakes, crazy, it's not being advertised as changing the world forever.
Right then, like you go DC, which also have its own ridiculous crossover in what is it Metal 2, which they're calling Death Metal.
Yeah, I like that it's just all stupid right now.
Yeah, and I seen one picture where Wonder Woman has the chainsaw's truth.
Oh
So
my. Okay,
yes,
yeah. No, this is a good summer.
so look forward to reading those for the comic book club in the near future. Okay, so Amanda, I guess we should get to our main topic. We are kicking off Ninja Turtles month. Cause Amanda has never seen anything of Ninja Turtles really.
It's just a really weird blind spot that I've got.
Yeah, like it's a weird cultural blind spot. Me and Amanda could talk about Ghostbusters. We could talk about Back to the Future. We could talk about Power Rangers. But for some reason, Ninja Turtles has never came up.
I will say my biggest exposure to Ninja Turtles was when I went to college, my school had very strange essays that you had to write for admissions, and one of them was essentially like, which Ninja Turtle are you? And so I had to like ask around and find out what Ninja Turtle I was.
Donatello.
Everybody said Leonardo actually.
Really?
And yeah. So but I mean, maybe that was when I was younger, but, so that was the one, like, kind of like reference I had going into this. Was the only thing I knew about the Ninja Turtles, aside from the theme song for the cartoon, was that I'm the Leonardo.
Leonardo, really?
Maybe, like I said, maybe when I was younger. I mean, clearly I'm the nerdy one, so I mean, I would have guessed that I was the Donatello also, but.
Well, let me ask you, which Ninja Turtle you think I am?
I feel like I was gonna say Michelangelo.
Really?
But I feel like you might see yourself as more of a Raphael. But see, the thing is, I feel like a lot of guys probably saw themselves as the Raphael. I feel like he was the character you were supposed to kind of like relate to. Sort of like in like Harry Potter, where everyone's like, of course I'd be a Gryffindor. And I'm like, no, like we're all Hufflepuffs. Shut up.
No, I'm definitely a Gryffindor. I've taken tests. I've taken several tests.
Uh-huh.
And I've always come up Gryffindor. I've
Okay.
tried to answer different, and I still come up Gryffindor because it wasn't different enough.
Okay, well, fine. So yes, you're either the orange one or the red one, and I'm either the blue one or the purple one. So we've got all our bases covered.
Well, of course, I see myself as Raphael. Of course, I guess this is a conversation for next week. Mm-hmm. Michelangelo was my favorite till the movie.
Okay.
Then it became Raphael.
Okay.
But the thing is, the Raphael from the cartoon to the movie are way different from each other.
Okay.
Yeah. So look, you'll understand next week when we watch everything and we'll discuss it. We'll
revisit which Ninja Turtle we think everyone is.
Yes. Okay. So today we are reading the IDW reboot of the Ninja Turtles comic. Nickelodeon bought Ninja Turtles back in 2009, I believe, and they wanted a strong comic presence, so they went to licensed comic extraordinaire IDW. And I'm gonna tell you, Amanda, in my opinion, this is one of the best comics, and it's been one of the best comics since 2011 that I don't think enough people read for mainstream comics anyway. Like if you want like pure like mainstream action that's pretty good, I think this comic is. I think this comic hit all those bases. But anyway, the synopsis read: they're back this summer. The original heroes in the half shell make a triumphant return to comics. Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael reunite to bring their ninja aptitude and teenage attitude to IDW Publishing in this all-new action-packed series featuring a cast of familiar characters: Master Splinter, April O'Neil, Casey Jones, and more, and true to the spirit of the original comics created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. I've always had a hard time saying his name. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it was in all caps, are bigger and badder than ever and ready to rock and roll with new fans. This comic is written by Tom Waltz with story by Kevin Eastman and Tom Waltz. The art is by Dan Duncan with layouts by Kevin Eastman. So
then we've also got Rhonda Pattinson did the colors and Robbie Robbins did the letters. Robbie Robbins is a great name. That is a radio DJ name. Right?
And like that's some good alliteration right there. That is.
Yeah. Congratulations to Robbie Robbins' parents. That was a great decision.
You know he hated when he was younger though. You know he did.
Which turtle do you think Robbie Robbins is?
Oh, Robbie Robinson is definitely like a Donatello or Leonardo. You could tell he's like quiet and introspective.
Because he's a letterer, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Good talk.
Yeah. Is this whole thing is just going to be about what Ninja Turtles we think people are?
No, not the entire thing. Just a significant percentage of this podcast has become BuzzFeed personality quiz.
Okay. So Amanda, what did you think of the? Oh, by the way, we are reading the first 12 issues of this comic, which started in August 24th of 2011. So Amanda, what did you think of this Ninja Turtle reboot comic?
Well, since I don't really know the Ninja Turtles at all, this is kind of like my first Ninja Turtles story ever.
Right.
I really liked it.
Okay.
I was a little bit confused at some parts, right, where I think that maybe being familiar with the story or the Turtles already might have helped.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really love the Turtles and Splinter, though. Like, they're awesome characters, and I would watch or read, like, probably almost any version of them.
Are you serious? Or are you just being...
No, I'm serious. I'm like the core of these characters is so fun. Like a group of brothers or just like guy friends who like, I don't know, just the relationship between the Turtles and like their sort of adopted sensei dad character. I really love, and I feel like it's similar to like the Power Rangers and Zordon, or like the Gundam pilots and the scientist guy, or like, I don't know, it's a really fun dynamic.
You know what's so cool about this? Like you saying that, because this is all new to you.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I think most people who've read Ninja Turtles like figured that out. But Amanda, can you see why this was so popular?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I also see how you can make the details. I also see how this could be almost. You could target this at children incredibly well.
Yes. Because
the characters are approachable and they're cool and they do fun stuff, but they're good because they don't actually kill the bad guys and they've got cool weapons. It's just like they are made to be action figures or toys. They are made to wear like a t-shirt that you then want to wear. Like, I want to eat pizza after I read this. It's selling me a lot of happiness.
Right, right.
At the same time, it's selling me a story about, being a dad.
Yes, it is. And like this version of Ninja Turtles is surprisingly serious. For I mean, for
Hmm.
what it is, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
I want to talk about the like. See, this is a conversation we need to have now, but also one I want to have in 3 weeks.
right.
But I want to talk about the origin a bit.
Yes,
So, like, I've seen and read a very, very, very many versions of this origin story, right?
right.
I think this might be the best, in my opinion.
I really, really loved almost all of it. And then by the very end, the part of it that I wasn't super into, I also loved.
Well, I think the part you wasn't into at first is probably the part that I love. Is it? Is it the reincarnation?
Yes, and what sold it to me was the turtles being admittedly skeptical of it themselves,
Right,
but then going with it anyways, like in their hearts, I guess.
right.
Because what I needed was just that one moment of like, yes, we acknowledge that this is somehow the weirdest element that we've brought up in this entire story so far, but we're just going to keep going. And I'm like, okay, yes, you've given me a moment to get on the same page.
Right, right, right. So, like for me, right, the reincarnation part is the reason I love it so much is it makes them all actually blood related, which is actually new for
Yes.
for this. You know what I'm saying? Like usually they're just pet.
Yeah, he's not just a weird rat that thinks the turtles are cool or whatever. He's like actually interested in the turtles because they're his sons.
Like his actual blood sons, and like the turtles, they always been portrayed as brothers, but it's always been that question of whether they were just pet store turtles, so they technically couldn't have been related. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like I like the like so for me as a person that's seen many versions of this where they're pretty much all adopted, it was cool to actually have them be like
Yeah.
actually related, and not just that, it gives a whole new dimension with this blood feud with Shredder. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
Like like it's nuts and it's really harrowing too. Like Christ, when he executes them,
Yeah.
like that's fucked, man. Like,
Yeah, no, this is, and it also brings in a little bit of like the lone wolf and cub tradition
right,
of like, thinking about like what it means to be a ninja with honor that exists beyond like your system you're embedded in, and like being a Ronin on the run, keeping his children safe, and like it kind of slips it into that tradition a little more neatly.
right. And what sells it for me is that whole scene is like Michelangelo crying because he's supposed to be the youngest, so he's the
Hmm.
most afraid. So you see like little human Michelangelo crying, and you just like, oh, like he's just like, oh man, just oh that must be rough. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, I think I'd take a series about human Splinter and his kids in feudal Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think I would see that like a alternate history where they didn't get murdered and they get older and get their revenge on Shredder. Like I think that would have been cool. But that's just me, like I go to Tumblr and write some fan fiction. That's what I do. Well, yeah. So like to me, that's like my favorite part of this reboot. Like so far, like I'm way ahead. Like I'm in issue. For me, I'm in like issue 80 something, 70 or 80 something at this point of this comic. But I remember reading these first 3 volumes like back in the day, and just thinking how fresh of a take that is. Cause like as an old turtle head, it was like oh, and like I know it seems like far fetched to you, but like Ninja Turtles will get weird, Amanda. So
Well, yeah, I mean, I was like I said, it's really, and I think the characters even say this within the book. They're like, okay, so you were fine with like some weird mutagen that made us talking turtles, but like reincarnation isn't cool, or like you're okay with aliens contracting the government to help them build super soldiers for their space war?
well, I don't think the turtles know that part yet, but yeah, but
But we do, and so it's sort of like really clever for the writers to call out like, hey, we are going to take a minute and stop and let you process your perhaps unjustified reaction to the notion that this is reincarnation.
you do know at some point they fight like bipedal triceratops from another planet. Just, just
Sure,
yeah,
sure. I mean,
so like yeah, so I how can I say this? You see, it's hard for me because I know what happens. I'm trying to put myself back into that mind frame. But okay, you know what? How about this? Let's talk about characters you like besides the Turtles and Splinter. Is there
right.
any other supporting characters that you like?
Well, it's funny because you said Tumblr, and I almost made a segue into talking about April and Casey.
Right.
If anything from this book is going to get shipped, it's the two human characters who, I guess in this, did they decide to make them teenagers? I thought they were older.
They're usually portrayed as older. Here,
Okay.
they seem to be college age, so about
Okay.
1920.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I mean we've got, so one of the things that I liked about Casey's character is that his story with his father is sort of like the opposite story of like the Turtles with Splinter,
Right.
where his father's become abusive actually since their mom died, and he's become, I guess, alcoholic. Um, and I thought it was really interesting to have that element of his backstory to explain why he was so drawn to the turtles and their family. Um, to kind of show that, like, I don't know, he was kind of longing for that, but I don't know. I mean, like, otherwise he seemed, I don't know. They both just seem kind of like okay as characters. I feel like maybe if I saw like a standalone April story, I might like her more, or like a standalone Casey story, I might like him more.
Okay. Okay. So
But I feel like they're mostly just there. I mean, I feel like Casey was mostly just there to show an example of like a bad dad, and that April was just there because she's supposed to be. Like, we're supposed to have a cute redhead in this story
look,
who helps the turtles for no reason.
I'm gonna tell you something. There is no Ninja Turtles without April O'Neil. You might be able to leave out Casey. You can't leave out April. April is just as much of a constant as the
Yeah.
Turtles and Splinter.
I mean, I know she's like supposed to be there, but I'm just like, so far, like, in the story, we don't know. We haven't, in those first three volumes, we haven't seen too much of her character. We know she's smart. We know she's a good student. We know that she likes animals. Um, we also know that she has maybe a little bit of a sense of morality aside from like the rules she's given at her job.
Right.
But like, we don't really know that much about her. Um, I mean, I guess she does talk a lot about feeling powerless after the lab was robbed
Mm-hmm.
and trying to learn to defend herself and be like doing something active uh, to help with that feeling of like loss of control after being attacked. But like, I don't know. I kind of like, I wanted to see her. I wanted to see a little more of her, I guess. I guess what I'm saying, read these.
Yeah.
Especially the first few issues before the turtles have the different color masks.
Mm-hmm.
With more experience, it might be a little easier for me to tell them apart.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, that's a callback to the fact that the turtles in their original comic incarnation all had red masks. The color mask actually come from the cartoon.
okay. Well, I feel like, I mean, we've talked a little bit before about making your characters visually distinct quickly is really important sometimes for understanding what you're looking at.
Right.
So I definitely the different colored masks were definitely a reading aid for for someone like me.
You know what? I do want to bring up the art. I don't think the art is great in some places. Like, what's his name? Dan Duncan.
Hmm.
Like like from my understanding, he's only does like these first three, like these first three volumes. Then they have other artists. Like the turtles is later in the comic. In fact, it should be coming up soon within the comic that we're reading. Like they eventually like every set of Ninja Turtles look different, right? And these are the most generic turtles that I've seen.
Okay.
But eventually other artists come in and they kind of work out like a way they want the turtles to look. And every artist on the book since then have worked that design into their turtles. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think his art is okay. I think it's serviceable. But I think there's something. I think he's look. I tell you this: the parts in Japan seem to work better, in my opinion, for his art than like the modern day stuff with the turtles.
I definitely did like that style for the flashbacks. That was nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess we should talk about the villains. What do you think of the villains? There's
Um,
a lot of them. There's a shitload of villains in 12 issues of this comic.
okay, so I did like the cat.
Oh, Hob.
Old Hob. I liked the cat and I really loved the implication towards the end that the bad guys really were just using him
Right.
and that they had like taken his blood samples, but they were also like, we really would rather not use his blood samples because he's kind of crazy and like kind of shitty and we don't even like him. And I just felt like I was like, I don't know, guys, have you ever met a cat?
I know, right?
Like, I don't know if this is like poor quality, serum damaged by sewage that made him act weird. He might just be a cat. Um, but I also kind of loved that despite it being a cat and a rat fighting with each other, they didn't lean super hard into like the cat and rat like dynamic. They kind of played it professionally. So it's almost like as soon as they got transformed into like bipedal sentient things, they were like, "Oh no, 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 we have to pretend we're not animals anymore." And I kind of wanted like at some level for that to just come back out and then be like, "No, to be honest, I just want to stick it to the cat once, you know?"
Just once.
Like this is for all the animals that have ever been chased by a cat.
I actually like old Hob. Like you could see like you could see like him becoming a popular character.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
I mean, like I obviously haven't read. I kind of hoped that like he came back
I
just because like when you've got a villain who gets like he just seems ripe for like Vegeta conversion.
mm-hmm.
Like I feel like he would be so angry that he wasn't good enough for the real bad guys that he would be like, "Look, I'm not working with the turtles, but I'm not working for you anymore either."
like
So I hope he's not really dead.
like fuck you guys. You know what I'm saying? Just fuck
Yeah.
like fuck. everybody.
Yeah. And that's such a cat thing to do too. Like he's like, I'm just gonna knock everybody's stuff off this metaphorical table.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I could tell you, but are you gonna read more, or would you like to know? Because
I mean, if he does come back, that might make me read more.
well, he definitely comes back. I will say
Okay.
that.
I mean, like I've read a book before. Of course he comes back.
You don't know. Maybe he died right there on the concrete. Maybe he died right there. You don't know.
I mean, no, but
No,
I've
I'm being funny. Of course he comes back. Of course he does.
okay, well. Well, I don't know. Ned Stark never came back.
Well, that's different. His head was
Okay.
separated from his body.
Okay.
Well, what was the rule? If you see the body, it's basically over with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So.
Okay, so you were asking about villains. Okay, so I liked Old Hob.
Right.
I thought it was I liked the design mostly of like Shredder and the Foot Clan. Lots of cool costumes there.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like because I didn't read, there were like a few side stories that their introduction felt a little rushed.
Right.
And it
Yes.
felt like it was like, oh, like we've had this other plot where we were dealing with the corporation that made the mutagen.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly it's like, oh no, actually we're going to like suddenly and without a lot of time to prepare, force all of the turtles and Splinter to confront like the trauma from their past lives. I feel like I would have loved to have seen that not drag out, but given more room. Because that was kind of my favorite part. What did you think of the villains, since you're asking?
Well, I think I would like to see more of Karai, even though like, it's hard for me, man. That's why I'm asking you the question, because I know. But like Karai seems pretty cool. Honestly, the fucking Ice Fox is kind of like
Yeah.
the character that intrigued me the most.
Mm-hmm.
Like I seen the Ice Fox when I seen the Ice Fox for the third time. Was it Applettes?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was trying to think how to say it, because that's like the actual name for a snow fox, I think.
Right. So that to me is like the cat. Look, I want to action figure.
Alopex.
Alopex. Thank you.
It's like the genus name or something.
And I think, in my opinion, I think I would have liked to, like, I would want an action figure of her. Is basically what, like, that's the thing about this is, like, since it's the comic, and like since Ninja Turtles is geared towards kids, they don't make like any comic specific characters. There's no like toys of.
So she's got to make it into a movie first.
She gotta make it into a movie or a show, right? Like,
Yeah.
so like I want to say, if this was a show, would you watch it? Like, if they took these storylines, translate them to a TV show, would you watch it?
Probably. I will say that I would be very interested, and I think this is something we will talk about next time. I think it would kind of depend on what the turtles look like.
Okay.
Because in a comic book or a cartoon, it's really easy for you to kind of use your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
If it was like live action, I think the special effects can like throw some stuff off.
Right.
Like it could be distracting in a way where I wouldn't believe it, or they might go too serious and try to make me like really believe it. And I think that cartoony would even be fine.
Right. Okay. Let's see here. Man. So I guess the only what did you think of Baxter Stockman as like just the biggest dick in the world,
Um,
just the
he,
biggest smuggest veiny dick that he is.
I mean, he just reminded me of like every boss ever.
And what did you think of Crane, the general that's a brain inside of a robot body?
Okay, so here's how I know that Ninja Turtles has seeped into like everyone's brains without them even watching it. I know that like in high school I had a nightmare about that guy, right? Like the guy with like the brain, like you open the shirt and there's like the brain in the chest that's actually controlling everything.
Yes.
Um, I know I've had a nightmare featuring a villain like that. So clearly this is like deep subconscious level archetypal you know, villains, like it doesn't get any more classic than the brain and the chest.
Yeah, the family aspect. And I think none of this works without that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like this
Yeah.
is like if you didn't have like that center and that core, I don't think none of this works. Because like they just play earnest and completely straight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like I think that's the success of the Ninja Turtles in my opinion.
I agree. And I was really surprised about that
Hmm.
because and this is sort of, I have this perennial complaint of like these things, these properties, these stories, these books that people have told me to get into before. I complain that despite many people telling me I would like the thing, they've done a poor job of explaining why.
Hmm.
And nobody in all of their, oh yeah, Ninja Turtles is great, was like, oh, actually, this is a really great story to help understand the relationship between fathers and sons. And specifically, every man in my life grew up with Ninja Turtles. Their thinking about what it means to be a father is intimately informed by Ninja Turtles.
It's funny you say that.
Right? Like it just has to be. Like when I look at the men in my peer group, I know that at some level they're thinking about like when I raise kids, I want them like I will be their master splinter.
Well, yeah, and you know what? I think they do a very good job of portraying them as teenagers for the most part. I,
Hmm.
I do think, and like this is always a problem with writing teenagers. Like there's only two flavors of teenagers, right? They're usually either act too grown or too childish. And like I think Ninja Turtles like fall to both of those tropes in this comic at certain points. Not maybe necessarily that extreme, but it's really hard to write teenagers because it is like that time between. So you like how mature should I make them? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's
And what type of conversation should teenagers be having? Like I'm not for sure Donatello and Leonardo arguing over where reincarnation is real or not is like or logical is like a conversation teenagers would have with that type of language that they were using, not cursing, but just that type of intelligence
yeah.
that they was using in that particular piece of dialogue. But sure. But hey, that's why you got Michelangelo, right? Because Michelangelo is like the most pure of the pure teenager of all the turtles.
Yeah.
And also, I also think it's a nice dynamic to see like Leonardo and Donatello fight a lot. Cause usually it's Leo and Raph that fights all the damn time.
I think it makes more sense for I think makes more sense for the brothers that are more similar to fight
Right, right, right.
because it's when you can see yourself reflected back that you're more frustrated.
Exactly. So one last thing I want to talk about. Can we talk about how badass Splinter is? We talk about how good of a father Splinter is. Can we talk about how badass Splinter is? Like
Um, yeah, I mean, like, holy crap, like Splinter is amazing. Um, it's just very, I mean, it's sort of like this is what we wanted, not to like keep alluding to other pop culture properties. But this is like what I wanted Obi-Wan to be,
Right.
right? Like this is this the final, not, maybe it's not the final battle, but the last fight we see between Splinter and Shredder and the Turtles and everything is kind of what I wanted at the end of A New Hope.
Right.
Like,
And it's kind of
they
what.
make Splinter fight and he does really well, and then he's like, no, I'm not going to actually kill the guy. And then he fights Shredder and can't quite beat him, and he's like, my sons, you have to work together. Don't fight him one at a time like henchmen. Fight them all together. And like it was just very satisfying and very
And
badass.
I hate to say this, but this is kind of what I wanted from the Last Jedi with Luke.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? This is like when people look, people complain about the Last Jedi, but I truly believe if they would have Luke Skywalker go out with like an actual lightsaber battle, I
Mm-hmm.
really believe half of those complaints nobody would have. I think if you had Luke Skywalker go out like like had Luke Skywalker go out almost like Splinter went out, I think a lot of people would have been satisfied. So it's weird that you say Obi-Wan. You're right about, especially if you see the prequels Obi-Wan. Did you see?
Yeah.
You was like, oh, this could have been more. So like, yes, I agree with you 100%. I also like that if you look at Splinter personality, and this happens even more as the book goes along, you can see almost all the turtles' personality traits within him a little bit.
Ooh, that's nice.
Like, you know what I'm saying? You can see like you can see that he has like an anger streak, right? That's clearly Raphael. You know what I'm saying? Like clearly, like you know what I'm saying? Like that's Raphael. That's where like Raphael get his anger from. But he's also like quiet and like thoughtful, like Leonardo. But he also can be like inquisitive and curious,
Yeah.
like Dunny, and like he has a sense of humor. Maybe not as much as like Michelangelo does, right? You know what I'm saying? But he does have a bit of lightheartedness about him.
Yeah, that's really, man, I'm just not expecting, I'm consistently disappointed with myself for expecting these licensed property books to be mediocre or adequate. And then the creative teams actually bring more.
Well, Amanda, you know what it is, right? They're our age. Almost all these people are our age or close to our age, right? They grew up with this shit, and what I
Yeah, but I half-ass my job all the time.
no, but what I'm saying is, if when you grow up with this stuff, no
Yeah.
matter how silly it is, right? You
Yeah, they've
you
had time to.
you
I mean, this is them thinking for decades about
yeah,
what they would do
like
with the
like
characters.
like look at the new Ghostbusters trailer. Take a drink. Look at the new Ghostbusters trailer, right?
Hmm.
That shit don't look like Ghostbusters, but in a good way, right? This
uh, I know that Walt Simonson, who did like an epic run on Thor in the 80s,
right.
has spoken about how that run was essentially the fanfic he started back in like the 60s when he read his first Thor comic. And so he just had 2 decades to figure out what would he actually do with this character.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he finally got him, he's like, all right, we're going to do it. And I think, I think I don't want to say that like dreaming about a project for 20 years is a prerequisite to do a good job on it, but it certainly doesn't hurt. Yeah, I'm done underestimating and wasting my life not enjoying things because they look like they're made for children in the 90s.
It was made for children in the 90s. You're not actually wrong, but no, but yes, okay.
But
So
it's no reason to not enjoy it.
yes. We read a few things about we read a few like licensed things at this point, haven't we?
We have, and they've all been very good. And I'm not sure. I was going to say, I'm not sure if that's just because I have you picking out the best for me. Like, we all have that one friend who makes sure you only see the good anime and not the stupid stuff.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but no, I think it may be more to the credit of IDW's editorial and the fact that they're hiring people who are good for these jobs, and then maybe because they have the freedom of people dismissing them as licensed comics, they let the creative teams kind of really do what they want.
And good on Nickelodeon for letting them do this
Yeah.
because Nickelodeon, because it is a kids property, Nickelodeon deals in kids, could have easily been like, nah, we need something a little less mature than what you're trying to do. But good on them for letting them just kind of run with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, saying Nickelodeon, I now am getting a little bit more of like an Airbender vibe from these books in terms of the complexity and like the tone that they're allowing to come into them.
Right.
So I do think there is some precedent for Nickelodeon trusting their creators to put real themes into what is like a really incredibly well marketed package.
Right. And this is part of like the whole Ninja Turtle renaissance. Like my son loved Ninja Turtles because like basically between 2011 and 2014, Nickelodeon had Ninja Turtle movie, comic, and hit show, and a massive toy line that came back full blown within like a 4 year, like a 3 year period. Like they just came roaring back, and like it just from a business standpoint, which we usually don't talk about, it was like a really good package.
Yeah.
It was just like a really good like it was a really good business plan that they like executed perfectly. So yeah. On that, Amanda, I think we are done.
Well, we're done for now, but we are going to talk.
Yes,
more
we
Ninja
have
Turtles.
2 more weeks of Ninja Turtle stuff to talk about. Amanda, what are we talking about next week?
So next time we are going to try to watch some Ninja Turtles in the TV screen on the screen that you're looking at. I don't know. So we're going to watch the movie from like 1990. Is it 90, 92? Okay.
90, yes.
We're going to look for the first 5 first 5 episodes of the cartoon from 87.
Yep.
And then, if we're brave, the Michael Bay reboot.
And okay, then the week after, Amanda, what are we on reading?
We are going to try to go back and read the original Ninja Turtles.
So I said the first 7, but I think we should read like the first 11 or 12. We're going for 11, but let's just say 12. I think we should read if that's okay with Amanda.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at it and see, because I think we said that volume.
Well, that's the thing. I like as we were talking, I was looking at it. They have it in several different type of volumes.
Okay.
And it seems like the first 11 to 12 issues, I think, tell almost like a complete story or something close to it. I think.
All right.
Because believe it or not, that's the one thing I've never actually touched of Ninja Turtles is like the original comics. So this will be all new for me also.
I'm really excited because, I mean, I was saying a little bit maybe in our discussion before we started that I think it's interesting that for such a superficial story that's just about really cool turtles punching guys and eating pizza, I think it's interesting that the origin story matters at all.
Right.
That seems to be like a circumstance where you'd be like, hey, they're turtles, whatever, right? And the fact that they do have a really significant origin story that informs who they are as characters is kind of surprising. And I would be interested to see as many versions of that as I can. All
right. So, Amanda, that's what we are doing for the next couple of weeks. Everybody, thank you for joining us for this. Amanda, if they want to talk to us about Ninja Turtles, what could they reach us?
We are on Twitter as Comic Book Club 52. And you and I are also both sometimes on Twitter personally. They could also send us an email, comicbookclub52@gmail.com. And we are the Comic Book Club on Facebook that is doing Ninja Turtles month. So it should be easy to figure out which comic book club we are.
Right. So, I'm Jamil Payne.
And I'm Amanda Comey.
And we are out. Cowabunga.
Cowabunga. I made it funny.